You might pass them off as dramatic or inflexible, easily overwhelmed, overreactive. But my next guest says some kids and teens are simply wired to feel things more deeply. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson is seeing more and more parents in her office who don't know how to deal with a child who experiences these big emotions. And she says it does require a different approach. Heather, thanks for being here. Okay, so we're going to talk about these deeply feeling kids. Is that something that you would compare, or how does that compare to when we say a child is highly sensitive?
Yeah, we do kind of tuck them together sometimes. A child who's deep feeling, they're going to experience emotions to a much greater degree. But the other thing that's different is they're going to express what they feel bigger also. So these are going to be tantrums. This is going to be screaming and yelling, throwing things, hitting a sibling. Just that acting out that as a parent we look at and go, wait a second, it's just food. Why is this such a big deal to you, right? We have a very hard time relating to this deep feeling child. We can know that they're deep feeling when, one, we see those outward expressions that are so big, those emotions that become so big so fast. And also you can know you're probably dealing with a deep feeler if the traditional approach to parenting makes things worse.
Okay, so you're already leading into my next question, which is, I would guess then we have to parent these kids differently.
We do. We have to parent differently. There's a couple things we need to do in our parenting, and we need to make sure that these kids know from us. First, we have to make sure that everything we do when we parent a deep feeler lets them know that we believe them, that we believe that the deep feelings they're experiencing are real and they're true. So we want to make sure that everything we do supports that. We also then want to make sure that we convey the message to them when we're parenting them, that our actions and our behaviors, the words we say, that we make it clear to them that our feelings, their feelings are not too big for us to handle. That is a deep feeler's biggest fear, those two things. First, that their feelings are going to eat them up. And second, that they're going to eat or consume us, that they're going to be too much for us. So we want to make sure that what we do doesn't put them or us in a position that doesn't support that we believe them and that we can handle their feelings. And you can see how this is different than how we traditionally parent, right? Where we give someone space or we validate. Doing those things to a deep feeler, it does the exact opposite of what we want, right? Anytime we create space with one of our kids, normally that would work. But in this situation, as soon as we create that space, they now hear my feelings are too big, my mom can't handle them.
So the validation you're saying is if we said, okay, I can see that you're upset. That's not a way to go about it.
We want to look at them and we actually want to say, I believe you. We want to let them know, I believe you, and it's safe, and I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to do this with you. That would be the approach you would want to take with a deep feeler, opposed to those more traditional approaches.
And you mentioned that sometimes they can have big reactions to those emotions too. And you said that that can lead to a cycle.
It can, even a cycle for us where we get in this space where because we're handling it wrong or don't know how to handle it, they act out, and then we try to get those emotions or feelings to stop. As soon as we try to get those outbursts to stop, they then act out more. We try to get them to stop, they then act out more. And so we have this cycle. So this leads to one of the very first things that we can do with these deep feelers, and that's be really effective. When we're effective, it means as parents that we're not trying to actually stop the tantrum or the outburst, which is very counterintuitive, right? To be in a public space or at home and have a child who has a major outburst, we want to stop it. We don't want to take that approach. To be effective, we let go of trying to stop the feelings. We let the outburst occur and just simply try to contain it. Containing it means that we're going to stay put with them. We're going to sit close to them, but not too close. We don't need to look at them, but we are going to stay in the same space, and we're going to assure them that we're there to be in it with them, right? So that's really important. The other thing to be effective that's so important is we need to let go of trying to understand them. Now that feels, again, counterintuitive, right? We talk extensively about the need to understand our kids and have a better understanding. The more you try to understand a deep feeler, the worse the outburst is going to get. We want to let go of understanding and instead grab on to believing. We're not trying to understand them. We just want to believe them. So to be effective, we want to put those things in place really quick.
You're taking me back to many a time out in public spaces, many public spaces. Okay, the next one is you talk about vocabulary. Is that similar to what we mentioned earlier by not saying certain words? Okay.
And not just certain words, but we tend to label them drama queen, over the top, you're too much, you're too sensitive. All of those things, again, remember a deep feeler, they feel their own emotions to such a depth, they actually feel scared of them, like they're going to eat them up. And so when we label them, we point out all of those negative things, and when they're pointed out, they feel shame, and the outburst will get bigger. So we want to be really mindful of those words that we're saying. We want to replace them with, I'm grateful that you feel so deeply. We want to replace them with, I believe you. I'm not going anywhere. My number one job is to keep you safe. Those are the words we want to give them when there's those outbursts.
I like those words, and I think that they could work for most kids, right? All kids want to be believed. You already talked about the shaming. Do these kids more easily feel shame, more deeply feel shame?
Absolutely. So anytime a child who's a deep feeler feels vulnerable, this could be that they trip and fall, or they say something silly and someone laughs, or even someone looks at them. This could be any mistake that they make when they feel embarrassed. That's vulnerability. Vulnerability and shame for a deep feeler sit right next to each other. The way we manage that shame is we create a connection. Connection helps us not feel that shame. And so when we're dealing with kids who are deep feelers, we want to combat that shame by staying connected to them. That's again saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here to be in this with you. That helps take care of the shame so that they then can start to learn the tools and skills that they need. Because remember, there's a big gap for a deep feeler between the emotions that they experience and the tools that they have to regulate those emotions. And so when we create a connection, it creates a safer space for them to learn those tools and those skills. So it's really important that we help mitigate that shame that they feel.
Yeah, they're like, Mom's still hanging with me, so I guess I'm okay.
And we try to stop it, right? They explode and we look at them and we say, it's not that bad, or stop doing that, or why. And as soon as we do that, again, they feel that as shame. So we're trying to avoid those things.
But you say we do need to address the magnitude. What do you mean by that?
So we tend to, again, in more traditional parenting practices, we attend to the feelings. In fact, we usually label them. We talk, again, a lot about helping kids recognize you feel mad, or you're embarrassed, or you're sad or scared. That is one of the worst things we can do with a deep feeler. All that does is shame them. It points out to them all the places where they're not good enough. Again, that shame. So we want to address the magnitude, not the feelings. That means we want to look at a situation and be able to say to them, this is so big. This is bigger than the whole wide world and all the worlds put together. We want to address a magnitude space. When they say something's hard, we want to say, this is harder than anything you've ever done in the history of your whole life. We want to go big with them concerning the magnitude, not the feelings. Anytime we point out the feelings, they feel shame. When they feel shame, the outbursts increase, right?
Yes, and her last one is looking for the fear quickly. What does that mean?
We tend to not recognize, we think that those outbursts, everything from throwing something or hitting someone, or I hate you, or no one loves me in this family, those outbursts, we tend to think that they're there to hurt us. And they're not. They're outward expressions of where these kids are really scared. There's fear. They're afraid that they're not going to be loved. They're afraid that they're too much for the people around them. They're afraid of their own feelings. And so what we tend to see them do is that if they can be really unkind and make us or put us in a position where we feel as bad as they feel, maybe then we'll believe them, right? And so we want to recognize it's not coming from a place of trying to hurt anyone. It's genuinely coming from a place of being scared. They don't know what to do when they feel that
Think
big.
about that first. Okay, thank you so much, Heather. We're going to have, she does personal counseling for people, and we'll have all of her website on, or her information on our website. Thanks, Heather.